Okay, well, it's an absolutely extraordinary victory for England because it's at a canter. They've won with 20 overs to spare. They say you double your total in the final 20 of a one-day innings, so they might have made 500. 248 for two against Netherlands at 244, which wasn't enough. And England utterly dominant, really. I think we shouldn't underestimate just how good and dangerous England are. We shouldn't underestimate how little exposure Netherlands have had of late to the best sides in the world, and how different that contest is. And we must forget that both sides are missing some of their key players, and probably that hurts the Netherlands more than it hurts England. Gareth, your overall impression of that performance today to start with?
I thought today England were good in their skills with bat and ball. I thought they could have been sharper in the field by their own standards. We've seen England teams in the past sort of 18 months being very dynamic in the field. I thought they were just a little bit off in the field, but from not being out there, you don't know how that outfield is and whether people are just erring on caution with their bodies. But from a skill set point of view, I mean, it's there for all to see. With ball, they were pretty good, and the guys coming in, Willie coming into this series after being sort of on the peripheries for a period of time. Payne getting a debut is wonderful. Carson showed that he's backing up his words of bowling with some pace in those middle areas and looking to rough a few up. The spin is covered off. Rashid is as good as there is in the world. He's wonderful. And then the batting performances, we are right up there with powerhouses in white ball batting, and there's still some names to come into that. When you think there's no Bairstow, Stokes and Root, we are blessed with some wonderful, wonderful players right now.
And you look at England objectively from the outside, Ryan, I don't see any diminishing of the force that won the World Cup.
No, if anything, is strengthening. The left arm option is going to be important for them. You can argue that Archer's a big miss. When he does come back in, that'll strengthen the bowling lineup. And like you said, the spin option's covered. Again, they've unearthed someone like Phil Salt who's just as powerful. He's still got Stokes and Bairstow to come in. And I think for someone like Matthew Mott, it's a difficult task to come in here. How do you make this team better? And I think, like you say, as long as they're not diminishing their power, as long as they're not diminishing their thought process around how they want to play the game, I think he's winning.
Is there anything that either of you see in England? I mean, you mentioned the fielding today you thought wasn't quite on point. Any areas you see that would obviously need improvement to win in a World Cup, a T20 World Cup, which is the next most important thing in short form cricket in Australia?
Yeah, England need to get sharper at the death with ball in hand. The numbers over the last period of time, England are down on the numbers. They need to be better at finishing off innings. It can't get to the point where whatever, I suppose, the Kevin Keegan football way, however many goals you score, we're going to score more. We can't always go down that route with the batters because we have a wonderful batting prowess. We just need to arrest those death overs and be a bit smarter about how we go about that. Unfortunately, in this series, I don't think the challenge has been quite there with the power hitting from the Netherlands, and that's not taking anything away from them. England ball well up front, but that is a challenge moving forward for England. Who can be replacing if Archer is fit to close out games from a bowling point of view?
Yeah, I like that, and I noticed that. I think that proved in the last year's 2020 World Cup in the Middle East. Actually, we saw at times Chris Jordan had a bad game somewhere. I think in the semi, did he? Or it is a fair point. We're focusing on 50 over cricket here. Here's a much wider question while we're waiting for some interviews. Is it a game that sustains itself for you in quality, or is it a game that's running out of time?
I think we are the luckiest sport on the planet because we have something for somebody that has 5 days to spare. We have somebody who has a day to spare, and we have somebody who has 3 or 4 hours to spare. I think we should champion all three facets. I think there is a thirst for it all, but I feel like at times we are trying to diminish a format to try and get something else in to big another format up. I think we can speak gloriously about it all because we are very good at it all if we are allowed to expose our skill sets to it in the appropriate manner. Come
on, I want an answer from you, then I'll give you my answer.
I would say I I would have said it's running out of time, but I think England can take this format to a new level if they're going to go all the way through. You know, the normal way it pans out, the normal running script is you have a go early on, then you bat through the middle. It's quite boring. People lose interest, and then you have a go at the end again. I think England are showing if you play a batting lineup like this and you've still got the bowling covered, you can afford to be really aggressive. And if teams are getting 450, 500, it's not unexciting. It is watchable, and it will keep people coming back to it. So I think in its old format, it's going to struggle. We probably don't need it. But if they can reinvent it and make it more exciting, then it has some more time.
Well, I'm so on Gareth Batty's page. For me, the format of the game is irrelevant. This whole thing is about bat and ball. If the balance is good between bat and ball, the game's too wonderful to worry about how long you do or don't play it for. It works over 5 days, it works over 10 overs a side. And 50 over side is a proven thing that appeals to lots of people and also to television companies. It must be remembered that the 50 over game is valuable. I think the World Super League could have more profile and be better thought through, which is effectively the qualification and seeding process for the World Cup itself. But other than that, I hope they persevere with it. I worry that a World Cup T20 every year can overrun it. I think the ICC needs to be very careful of overkill with T20 because you need to protect, not because of T20 itself, but because of the protection of the other formats. But for me, any format of cricket will do. That's why I support the 100, because I believe any format works. Right, Jason Roy is ready.
Time in the series, you must be chuffed.
Yeah, very chuffed. Very chuffed to finish on a high as well. Send our incredible travelling fans home with a smile on their face as well.
How difficult is it when you're 2-0 up in the series not to get complacent and keep your standards so high?
Yeah, we've always prided ourselves on our standards throughout series. Sometimes we might have started badly, but we pick up towards the back end. But we've been brilliant here. The bowlers were great, and it was made up for Payne getting his first wicket as well.
Huge series ahead, huge summer ahead for England cricket, the white ball and the T20 World Cup around the corner. Is this the perfect start?
It's a great start. It's a good benchmark for us to see where we're all at and in our games individually. But we got big tests in the summer now coming up, so time to get back, work hard and rejoin there and go again.
You mentioned David Payne, but also Phil Salt coming in. Bryden Carse has been impressive. How good have those guys coming into the side? How good have they been?
Yeah, they've come in and they've looked like they've played 50 games. You know, they haven't looked like new players. They've come in, enjoyed the atmosphere in the change room, enjoyed them with everything, and played some very exciting cricket. So the future's bright.
You mentioned the fans, the wonderful fans. They're going to be flying home tonight, no doubt. A word for them before you go?
Yeah, like I said at the start, they've been unbelievable. I'm sure they've enjoyed themselves here. It's probably a pretty good place to come travel to. I think we should try and make a bit of a habit of it.
Wonderful. Well played, Jason Roy, man of the match. Brilliant stuff. Enjoy your summer.
Thank you.
Make a bit of a habit of it. We like that. We get that. Amsterdam's party town. I think they all had a great time, those English fans. We've got Scott Edwards ready to go, I think.
I suppose, but some learnings I'm sure to take away.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, from where we started this series, well, I suppose they got a hold of us there as well. But obviously, we took some good learnings from it. The boys will be better for it and, we'll come back hard in our next series.
Your own form, incredible. You've had 4 50s in your last 6 ODIs. You must be seeing the ball really well and happy with your own form.
Yeah, seeing them pretty well. I thought today was a little bit of a harder wicket and they made it look pretty easy. So, here's what it is. 203
for 3 at one stage, 244 all out. What were you hoping to get from your 50 overs?
We were looking at sort of that 280. We thought with the wicket starting to slow down and spin, that would have us in the game. But just those wickets at the end, I thought credit to England, they bowled really well sort of after that 30th over to tie us down and take those wickets.
You mentioned the bowling. You had some interesting ploys at the start with new ball. You went short. What was the reason for that?
Just a wicket-taking option. That's where we had our guys out. We got some top edges from it, but they just, they fly away if you don't get to them. So
you've got a massive summer ahead. You're going to Zimbabwe very soon. Bad luck this week, but all the best for the rest of the summer.
Awesome. Thanks, mate.
Scott Edwards, who took over the captaincy after the first game when Peter Silo stood down. Do we have anybody else? We do. Joss Butler.
Yeah, very happy. Another great victory. I thought we played really well. I thought with the ball, to restrict them there, we picked up wickets at crucial times and brilliant batting display again.
Your own form, incredible IPL. You're just carrying on, picked up where you left off.
Yeah, feeling good. Don't get too giddy with it. Just try and keep going and make sure you're enjoying it when you're playing well.
A big summer ahead. I mentioned the Jason Roy, a lot of cricket and the T20 World Cup around the corner. A great platform, a great start for you and your side here.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of cricket coming up in a short space of time, which is very exciting. We've got great depth in the squad, more guys standing up on this trip and pushing the competition in the squad, which is just what we want to see.
Is it a perfect series to get some new players into the side like Phil Salt, Bryden Carse, and obviously David Payne today, debut. He got a wicket a bit later than he probably would have thought if you asked Liam Livingstone, but lovely for David Payne to get his first wicket.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought he bowled beautifully on debut. I thought he was threatening at the top, and he came back really well as well. So a great debut from him. I thought Bryden Carse looks exciting. Been really impressed with Phil Salt. So again, there's just a really deep pool of players that are pushing the game forward for us in English cricket.
And you're playing with 12 men, it seems, with this travelling Barmy Army. They've been great. Again, a word before they get on the plane home?
Yeah, we're incredibly fortunate to have such great support, aren't we? I think Amsterdam away is probably a trip that most of the Barmy Army quite fancy. So thank you to everyone who's travelled. It's been great. We've loved the 3 games. We've loved the week here. It's been brilliant.
Well, you've been brilliant. You're player of the series. You have won the SportsBuzz.com Cup. If you can bring the rest of your team in to celebrate and lift this trophy, Jos Buttler and England, 3-0 winners.
Yeah, and well done to Jos Buttler too. There's something about his cricket at the moment that's got some magic to it. He's in prime form, but he's not wasting that form. He's got all the smarts, he's got all the skills, he's widely respected amongst the other players. He's ready to step into the shoes of leadership at any point that it's needed, whether full term or not. Owen is at the front, the middle there, alongside Adil Rashid and Jos Buttler the other side. And they all do their bit there, there's no doubt. They work as one, Gareth.
Yeah, it's a real tight unit, the white ball team for England. They do things for each other. It's a very calm and relaxed atmosphere to express yourselves in with your skill sets. And it is, it's envied around the world, I think. It's pretty obvious sort of descriptions when you hear people talk about it, people that have been in it, people observing it. It is something to cherish and look after, and every single one of those fellas that have been on that trip will be wanting to make sure that stays for a long time. It's a very nice thing that England have created there.
What about the Holland side? How damaging is this, or not?
No, not at all, I would have thought. Scott Edwards mentioned the learnings there. I think it's quite a cliche to say at the end of a series, but if they're smart about it, they can review it and give feedback to the players and give them points to take away to work on. I think today was disappointing, and if we think they were 200 for 3 or 40 overs, I said to you 280, being the sports broadcaster that you are, you said no, they're not going to get 280, and they fell way short. But I think that's a mistake from their part. You shouldn't finish 244, whatever they got there, after being 200 for 3 or 40 overs. So there's something tangible. You can go away and say, look, how do we structure those last 10 overs? What can we do to make sure we don't lose 3 wickets for 5 runs and totally stall the, setting the score? And with the bowling, it'll be the same. They can look at heat maps and look at matchups and where they wanted to bowl, and clearly they could have done better. And Ryan Cook and Ryan Campbell will be doing that with the players over the next few days.
Now, one of the problems of playing against a batting lineup like England is that you can push too hard for too many. So I think they got into a problem there today with exactly that. England had, as Gareth mentioned, all the skills, taking the pace off the ball, getting into the pitch, changing their lengths, mixing up the bumpers at a stage at which the Dutch really needed to accelerate to get to the 280 that you had in mind. And that's when they perished. Can you push too hard too early because you know what England are capable of with the bat?
Yeah, I think that's a general a good point. Today, look, I don't think they were thinking 280 is going to be a winning score necessarily, and I think that was probably the right calculation from being 200 for 3, 280, even 270, somewhere around there would have been good. So you can use that as in mitigation to say why they fell off, but also to justify only getting 44, so 4.5 runs and over in the last 10 when you 3 down with 2 set batters. I think they can be better than that even against quality opposition, and even with the, without being derogatory, the limited skill sets they have, they should be doing better. If they miss, they should be getting 260 for my money.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost taking it back to an Olympian. You go on the 100-metre final, and you've got a guy that can run 9.70, but your best time is 11.20. You physically can't beat that guy, but can you get to your best potential? Can you maximise your best run? And I think that's what the Netherlands have to get out of this. How do we maximise? How do we get that fractionally better individually So that those little tiny mistakes that were made, and you understand why they were made, because England are a powerhouse, how then you move on from that to get better and better and better. We can only judge ourselves on our skill sets and what is our ceiling, what is our level that we can get to. And I think it's a good way of looking at it that way, as opposed to looking at your opposition, which, and I mean this with the utmost respect, they're probably never a chance of getting 450, 500 that England possibly could. So just get your levels as high as you can get them.
What level are they? Give a clue to the people out there that watch county cricket. Are they mid-table county side?
No, they're not. They're not as good as that. I would say they are a very good second 11 side. I'll be honest. They've surpassed my expectation here in both the series. You know, most of these guys haven't played more than a handful of club games. They're young guys. Very few of them have played list day or T20 internationals. So if you look at it in that context, you know, what is the reference point? The highest standard they probably would have played would have been somewhere like County 2's cricket.
Okay, that's interesting. But they got some county first 11 players, haven't they? They got 2 or 3 not here, a couple that came back for this game. So what you're saying is they've got 5 or 6 first class players and 5 or 6 waiting to be first class players. So is that about right?
Yeah, and only 2 played in this last game. Obviously, I think someone like a Scott Edwards and a Max O'Dowd are probably first class cricketers in my opinion. But mixed in amongst that were a lot of inexperienced young guys who, if we look 6 months ago, we weren't even considering them for the World Cup qualifiers or other associate events. So I think they've done a little miracle there preparing those guys for these 2 series.
Okay, very good. And the series overall, Gareth, I mean, it's the same story in each match, really, isn't it? England dominant. I mean, there was a moment in the run chase on Sunday where there might have been a wobble, but I suspect not, because there's an inherent confidence spread through this team. And this is useful stuff, isn't it? Starting the summer out with higher mountains to climb.
Yeah, and you never know what is around the corner. You don't know what injuries are awaiting us. We're a few deep in the injury list with the bowlers at the minute. You don't know. It only takes a couple of batters to get knocks on the hands, and all of a sudden you're losing your powerhouse. There's some young players that have put their hand up there. There are some guys that have got some experience. There are some guys that have gone on and got an international 100 that wouldn't have had it before this. So it's a real positive for England that they're getting a nucleus of players, not just the squad of 15. They're talking about, you know, possibly 25 that they could genuinely go with any one of those names, dependent on form and dependent on fitness.
So, guys, if we look at the world order of things, England, India, Australia, South Africa, Pakistan, a lot of pretty good sides out there. It's not at 50 over cricket tends to get you the best side winning more often than not. But you wouldn't necessarily say it's that easy to determine who the best sides are, and we've got India and South Africa here this summer.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's a longer game, one person generally doesn't win you a game.
No,
whereas
it's not like that quick fix in a T20 game, is it?
T20, somebody goes and gets 100 in 35, 40 balls, generally that team wins. So it's very unlikely that you lose or come out the wrong side of it. So I think you need at least 2 batters getting good scores in a one-day international, and probably 2, if not 3 of your bowlers really putting their hand up. I think England are very, very nicely poised, all bases loaded, but I would never ever discount Pakistan because they produce players from nowhere with outrageous skill sets. Australia always have a tenacity and a ferocious nature about them, which they will take anybody on. And South Africa, arguably, across all sports, they just produce very fine teams.
I saw Australia beaten by England in Dubai in the T20 World Cup when Butler slammed them round the park. They beat him almost before you could blink. They beat him so easy. And then Australia go on and win a tournament. So there's your point. Well made, I think.
Yeah, and I missed out India, the absolute powerhouse of our great game. Everything's coming through India at the minute because they just do it so well. They love it so much. And
they've gone quiet in 50 over cricket, funnily enough. For South Africa, beaten 3-0 in South Africa. They've been nothing like as dominant of late as you might expect them to be in that format of the game. And I sometimes wonder if their cricket at this time of year reflects tired players after a long IPL.
Yeah, and is it a bit of a changing of the guard with the Kohli shifting over from the captaincy and so on and so forth? Has the focus shifted? Is there a change in the way that they're thinking? And they're thinking two different ways, and that isn't with a 50 over in mind. I'd be amazed if they're not going into these massive competitions, not desperate to win it.
Can the Dutch qualify for these big tournaments? Do you see them getting any better, or do you think it's a stagnant period in Dutch cricket?
No, I think they're on the up. I think they are getting better. I think they're going to qualify sort of on the periphery of the tournaments, that being a lot of these tournaments now have a pre-qualifying phase. So I think when they go to Zimbabwe in a few weeks or a month's time, they should be strong enough to get past a couple of associate sides that are in their group, and they should therefore qualify for the main tournament, or the qualifying part of the main tournament.
Okay, fascinating to listen to you guys talk. I just want to finish, if I may, on to some degree the beauty of the game, because watching England is inspirational for young people at the moment. These very fine players at their best, playing outstanding cricket with a smile on their face. It comes off the back of what we just saw in those 2 test matches, and Brendan McCullum and Ben Stokes taking charge of the side. This is a golden little period for English cricket on the field that needs to be properly exploited off the field.
Yeah, we need to harness the great things that we're seeing and keep promoting this game. And I think we've seen it in this series. We saw Adil Rashid today in the nets with the Netherlands players. The Netherlands have played their part in this. They've not just turned up to make the numbers. They want to get better. They want to evolve their game within the game that England are playing. I think it's all a positive for the game, and we just need to, for once in the chapter of this great game, actually speak well of the game for long periods of time, because it is a wonderful game, and we're doing some really good stuff in this country. We just love to shoot ourselves in the foot from time to time.
Well, there might be issues with the structure of the first-class game in England. I mean, that's fine, and we can look to fix those, but some of the narratives aren't good enough, and in the national conversation we need the best players performing at their best, which they're starting to do, which turns England into a much better team. It's not true to say that England don't have the talent. They do. It's just getting the talent to perform in the right place. There are certain places it's very hard to go and play, and we had them back to back with India and Australia, 2 very tough tours back to back, and of course you get on the wrong end of those tours and on the wrong roll, and you can take a hammering. I mean, England won the first test in India, as we know. We covered it in the middle of the night, and all things were hunky-dory, but then they took up hammering in the series. So my point is, it's really for the English game to start talking itself up a bit. That's what, and therefore the national conversation in the highways and byways of each of the towns and cities of this land will begin to take cricket seriously again as a national sport.
Yeah, and when we take a lead from Joss Butler, from Jason Roy today, who were great ambassadors for our country and our game. They did it with a flair, a panache, a wonderful thing to be a part of. And they're selling the game. We need to keep selling it with microphone in hand. And the public need to sell it to their friends. Come and see it. I went to watch this game here. What a spectacle. What a great game it was. I think it is very healthy in this country. I go against a lot of people that say our first-class structure is not the best in the world. It is comfortably. It can be tweaked and made better. Yes, of course it can. But it is the best. We produce consistently the best first-class players. And all the other stuff that goes with it, all the other comps that we have are right up there. We can't compete with the £1 billion business of the IPL, so let's forget about that. But we compete across everybody else.
It was £1 billion business. It's now a £5.5 billion business. So it's become even harder to compete with, and I suspect that its exponential growth means that it'll get bigger and bigger. Okay, and a last word. Pick a moment from the series, boys, that just absolute caught your eye and just made you sort of salivate at the game.
I'm going to pick a Dutch moment, and that'll be Shariz Ahmed getting his first wicket, young leg spinner on debut. Just that elation, the joy, and the sort of points you guys are talking about around selling the game and the pure enjoyment that it brings to people. To me, that was a combination of everything I want to see from cricket, and the pure joy that it can bring. It's lovely to see that again.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the last ending of the game when Joss Butler hit a foolish ball for 6. Effortless skill, panache. Didn't over-celebrate, but showed the joy of winning a sporting event, a cricket match in this instance. But went around all the Netherlands guys, shaking hands and conversing and talking with them. And that is what sport is about. Yes, you win the game, but then you do it in the correct manner. And England have covered themselves in glory this game.